Good day. This is the Awareness Church Fellowship Outreach Ministries. We're coming to you with the series on relational abuse in families, the truth/connection to LGBTQ and other identities. This is series number 2. We're just reminding you that they're being done in 30-minute sessions as much as possible. And I am the ghost presenter of the people who are in my group who are from LGBTQ and others background, family background, lifestyle, etc., who have participated in bringing forth their true stories. And additional information is coming also from my writings and my research as well, okay, that goes with their stories. Okay, and we're still right now reading some background notes to help you understand where we're coming from and to let you know that this is connected to a book that will be produced from all of this. So, what we left off at, we were talking about how human development, when it gets disrupted by sexual abuse in families, whether it's by the mother or caregiver, male, female caregiver, and what it can reproduce in a child, a male and female child. Okay, we were studying about human development theory, is what we did with that, along with creation of human beings according to God and humanism. It's the truth. So we want you to know that this is where some of the information is coming from, or the main source of the information. And my main source is God, even though I also have a secular side, the counseling side that I studied under, my degrees are under, but at the same time, my belief is in God's word and what he has told me and what I have scribed out, written out in my journals over this subject. And this is going back, or started as far as writing it out, because it's always been in my life, okay, my family life background. But the writing started in 2016, okay. I additionally had read a brief article from faithwriters.com about reproducing after your own kind, just doing research, wanting to know what other people were getting as well. And this is from the Bible standpoint of view. What and how are you reproducing is the question that they were asking. This is not just faith talk, it's life talk, period. Okay? Some of the questions that we were asking were, how do reproducing work, the concept? It works like imprinting upon one's spirit. It's like an imprint that happens upon a person's spirit. Copying/modeling concept, and that can happen in the environment, the influence of the environment. And the environment we're talking about is the home environment, because we're talking about abuse that happens in children's lives during their developmental years. And yes, it may have happened on into their adult life as well, but I'm saying that's where it started at. So we're looking at the original environment, which is the home environment for most people in these situations. We asked other questions. What is the validity of the lifestyle? And we're talking about LGBTQ and other identities that people say that they have. Answer, created by man, not by God. These lifestyles were created by man, not by God. Another answer, God is valid because he created man. That's why we're listening to God's answers and his directions and his words, is because he created man, not man created man. Another answer is of God. Misuse of a product is abuse. Misuse means using a product for other than its intended purpose man is what man did. Okay. Another answer. Lifestyle definition is how one chooses to live despite all other options. Okay. Um, what one chooses to do with their life. A producive, and I may even have some words that may be made up to some people, but I'm just saying it like I wrote it back then. A producive dash lifestyle, one that is forced upon another um, by a disruptive human development process. Okay, versus the original lifestyle that we were supposed to have versus producive lifestyles that people are having. Researched victimsofcrime.org, since the Lord had been eliminating some residual effects of childhood abuse, sin, etc. from my life lately. This is back in 2016. As I began to research the information, I was bothered by the information, and as I read or came across it, I prayed about what God wants to do with this to help me and any other person in any other way, and to help others going forth. I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty deciphering some of the notes here. They have been written for a while. For me, there is, or there can be something that has not been dealt with in your Christian walk. You know, there's things, God doesn't overturn everything all in one day. Stuff didn't happen to us all in one day. It happened to us over the years, and so some things are buried so deep in our lives, especially when we're talking about abuse, and that's what we're talking about, that we learn to deal with them. You know, as human beings, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, the Bible tells us. And because of that, we have the ability to cope with things that are beyond us, you know, and we do it, you know, but then we need God's help to go back and unearth that stuff, dig that stuff up again so that it can be healed and so that we can be delivered from it and made better from it. And so our lives can be better, we can be better, and we can go forward in a better way. So that's what that was about. And I, you know, like I said, I prayed and asked God, you know, to help me with anything that I needed, you know, help with. I always have done that. And I always ask God to show me. So, because you know, we don't always want to see ourselves as we really are. And because I am a servant of the Lord, I want to see what He has to show me. I want to see with His eyes. I want to have Jesus' eyes looking at me so that I don't miss anything, you know, and that I can hand it over to God to help me with it. So He helps me deal with it, and it takes God, like I said, to bring these things up for me to be able to face them and then to be cleansed from them permanently. So only God can help us deal with stuff that has happened to us, especially bad stuff. And back then, like I said, this was Christmas Eve. My Christmas prayer was to be restored back to good health and healing from some severe back stuff that I was having going on. And anything else God wanted to do at that time. So we have some notes here for the book on the LGBTQ and others, and it was reproducing after their own kind. God woke me up and gave me this as an answer to the falsehood, because that's what I kept hearing, the falsehood of the homosexual lifestyle. Answers to how it comes about is what God was talking to me about, is what I asked Him about. He had gave me some diagrams as well, and I had them drawn out. I'm not sure if they're in this, but they should be in here. They're just not the big ones that I had actually done on the computer. The forewords of our book will be, and of our series will be, when people know the way into something, they can also find their way out if they choose to. It is not to say that the ways are easy, but it is to say, you say, some of you, that you did not have a choice about who you are or how or have become, but this information destroys the things that made you believe that falsehood. So that's what we're telling you, is that when people know the way into something, you can also know the way out of something. Okay? It is not to say that the ways are going to be easy, okay, to come out of something, nor even if they were nor are we saying that they were easy for you to get into something. But it is to say, for those of you who say, some of you who say you did not have a choice about who you are and or how have become, but this information will destroy the things that made you believe that whatever your truth is, that falsehood, okay, it will destroy that as you continue to hear the truth. The truth destroys falsehoods, y'all. The truth destroys lies. So that's what we're saying here. This book in this series discuss facts, truths from real people's lives, and their identities are their life answers. Their identities are their life answers to our interviews, surveys, etc. And if they later choose to reveal themselves, it will not be by our doing. We are about helping to restore lives to their healthiest place they can be. And it is by choice, a free will choice, whatever their choices, whatever their choices is. Though that person must live with the results of that choice. This choice should not infringe or take rights away from the foundations of human development and living. Of those lives proven to be the best life and living for any human being in societies. We do believe this occurs only when we reproduce after our own kind, males, females, purely. Bible verses we're coming from is Genesis Law 1, chapter 1, 11 through 12, verses 21 and 24 through 25. Jesus confirms this also in Matthew 7, verse 16 through 18. And to do this any other way, by any other means, reproduces dysfunction in the human development, resulting in other identities and lifestyles that serve to harm humans and the human race and human society. The question that follows here is why sex is so important, why human development matters. This is going out to parents / caregivers, heterosexual, homosexual, affects the children, the home environment, disruption in human development, abuse, non-sexual abuse, sexual behavioral. It affects the behaviors. It affects their sexuality and sexual behavior. It affects the reproduction in the womb, spiritually, physically, within the soul, cognitively, emotionally, all those things are affected by this because reproduction affects all of that, all of who we are inside and out. Behaviorism is affected, the environment is affected, is already affected and infected with the abuse. So the reproduction happens on the outside in behavior, in the environment, and in the flesh, physical, which ends up being what the Bible or what Christians know to be soul ties. The family tree, sexual reproduction. Once reproducing starts, it will continue unless stopped, ended. Godly soul ties, flesh, and this gets into the diagram that God had gave me about, and I will have to put this on in the video so that, because there will be videos along with these, with the series, so that you can understand and see how God gave me a diagram of what happens in the flesh and in the spirit, inside the womb, outside the womb, how it from man and a woman who's married, the correct side, and they have boys and they have girls, and then they are the fathers and the mothers of these boys and girls. Now, in the abuse, when the father abuses a son, you get a gay male. When the mother abuses a son, you can get a gay male. Okay? The father, when the father, this is on the abuse side, when the father, you're not going to understand this really, but you can hear it, and then you can see it in the diagram when I put the diagram with the video. When the fathers abuse the girls, we get, father to the girls, or the daughter, you get a promiscuous daughter, okay, when the father abuses the girl. On the mother's side, we're coming from, when the mother to the girl, you will get a lesbian girl, okay? The G in the diagram means gay, the L means lesbian, the P means promiscuous or whorish behavior, whorish sexual behavior of both the boy and the girl, okay, males and females. Daughters, we're talking about the children reproducing after their own kind, okay, the reproduction system. And that went from a correct marriage of a man and a woman who had boys and girls as children. They became fathers and mothers, and then in the abuse, the fathers abusing the son, you get a gay male, and as I said before, go back over the tape. Now we're going to move over on the second part of the diagram. We got outside the womb. Okay, yeah, we're still on the outside here. Male plus a male. Okay, so if you have a male plus a male, you have the wrong relationship. You have an abusive relationship that has already come together, and it's going to produce the same thing. A male and a male will produce a gay male, okay? If they have the girls, they will produce a male and a male, raising, these are the caregivers of the children. You will get a gay male on the boy side. You will get a girl that's promiscuous, and if they reject the daughter, or if she feels rejected in the male and male relationship, caregivers over them, you will have a promiscuous daughter, or you will have a gay daughter, a lesbian daughter, I'm sorry. The third level comes to the female and the female, two female caregivers mothers who are raising a girl or a daughter or a son. I'm sorry. So you will end up, they will have a lesbian girl, or they will have a daughter who is promiscuous. I'm sorry. They will have a gay son, or they will have raised a gay promiscuous son. The whore is what we're talking about. Okay. I'm trying to read my notes here, y'all. So preference is created and forced upon. Okay. The desire is preferred. Okay. These desires are preferred. The preference is a male to a male and a female. Caregivers. These are the adults in the situation. But the preference is created, okay, and it is forced upon the children, though. And people will say, well, I didn't force my daughter to become, though I'm lesbian and we raised our daughter. We did not force anything upon her to become a lesbian, or we didn't force our son to become gay, and we didn't force our son to be whorish, you sleeping around, promiscuous. No, the home environment, you are the original caregivers, and you are setting the environment. And so the environment that you set for your children forces this upon them. Okay? So, also, there is a spiritual dynamic at work as well, which also is passed on when these behaviors are happening in the adults' lives, and it is passed on to their children. Okay? And we do know that environmentally that this happens, but it also happens spiritually. These are by sexual acts, etc., environmental, which is I was just going over, and the parent / caregiver of these children. However, to practice the acts of homosexuality as a lifestyle is a choice that can be broken. Though people may feel like they had these tendencies and they never had any other heterosexual types of tendencies ever in their lives, they had the influence of homosexuality already on them. And you can come into this world, and we will get into more detail about that, with that influence on you. But the answer to that is to just say no, refuse to go with it and stop it. And if you cannot do it in and of yourself, because some people have done that, but the most thing that helps people the most people that are successful are those who go to God and get help through Christ to stop it, because you're going to need some help. It's not, even if you do pretty good in walking away from it, it's going to keep coming up. And if you don't have the power to stop it every time it keeps coming up, you may decide one day to walk in it. And then it may take you years to come back out of it. And you will definitely need God's help. So it's better to go to God with things like this, okay? Because this is not the norm. And anybody who really is wanting to know the truth and wanting to hear from God will be able to tell that this is not the norm. And so these are not normal lifestyles that God intended for human beings to live, okay? Society was started in the way that God wanted it to be. We changed it as people with our desires and things of that nature. Our sin nature led us to have desires to want to change the way society was originally started, okay? And that was heterosexual. Sexual intercourse is the way that these things are transmitted and the way that identities are formed in children. It affects them physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This is how trauma, that's what it's called, the emotional trauma comes in a soul tie A soul tie is when you have sex with someone, whether it's an adult and a child, or a human being and an animal. When you have sexual intercourse because of God's intended purpose for sex, was intended to reproduce something, other human beings. That's what it was supposed to do. Okay? The enjoyment of it was like the recreational side of it that God gave to man so that they would want to have sexual intercourse. And it was also a way to worship God because it was for reproducing other human beings, which God created. Okay? So you can understand why he would be worshipped through the act that he gave mankind to do. So it is a blessing and a praise to God when we have intercourse, because his sole purpose, or main purpose, I should say, was to reproduce other human beings, okay, or children. So when you have sex with your husband, and your wife, what I'm saying, man to his wife or wife to her husband, they are forming a soul tie, a unity, a one. That's why the Bible tells us that when they have sex in reproducing, they become one flesh, okay? So they become one. So that means their soul is tied to each other. They become knitted together as one. And that's how God sees them. And so this is, okay, a soul tie a soul tie can make a child believe that this is the way they were born. And that's why children can say, and have been saying over these latter years, that they were born this way. And this is all they know. And this is because the transference, the reproducing, has already taken place in that child before they even had any understanding of who they were. And so that's what got transferred to them, and so that's why they believe in these other identities. It's not that hard to see what God is saying about this. But I got this information from God. So they really were born that way. They were born with something. And so whatever that identity they think that they are, that's how it came about. Okay? Let me see what I have here. Relationship matters. This is in 2017. Parents/caregivers, non-sexual. Parents, man plus woman, produces boy child who becomes gay. How? Was he born that way? Explanation. It is probable that a father who represses homosexuality and marries a woman, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading my journal, y'all, will produce this in their son, boy child, because of reproducing that happens in the relationship as father and son. The son will reproduce what is in the father, even though the homosexual behavior is hidden. The son, like a father who represses his homosexuality, and he marries a woman and they have a son. The son will pick it up from the father who's repressing his homosexuality. Since the father's genes are more dominant than the mother's, this will happen with the father more likely. There's a greater percentage of it than with the mother. If it does, the son may be straight like his mother. If it doesn't, this is based on the relations that have affected identities in children. Caregivers have the same kinds of results in children. It's not just the biological parents. If there's a caregiver, a major caregiver in the child's life, these things will happen. And they will be reproduced in the children. So it ain't like your children just by some, I don't know, even can't even think of the word. Your children just didn't happen to come out this way, y'all. There's a reason why this was reproduced in your children, okay? You reproduced it. Reproducing after your own kind. In single-parent homes, non-sexual, these are non-sexual reproducings. The first one I gave you were when there was sexual abuse going on with the children. This is non-sexual things that are reproduced in your children. The effects that affects the children's identity. If a mother is raising her children, a boy and a girl, and the mother's domineering type probably has an abusive background herself with her parents or parent or parents, the boy, I'm giving you scenarios here, will more likely become homosexual, maybe repressed in childhood, and show up later in life, especially if the mother would be disapproving of this in childhood. The boy could become very angry towards women, become whorish in sexual behaviors, and have problems with commitment to women because he would not want to feel the control of one woman in his life, like his mother had. This man may need men in a sexual way on the download to make him feel in control or safe. In his mind, he may know mother cannot do this to him anymore, but emotionally he is broken, so he will act out his fears and or insecurities reproduced in him by mother in his home environment, non-sexual. We're going to read the last part here and stop on the daughter. The daughter will reproduce herself as her mother is because of what was modeled to her, okay? And this is in the area, like I said, this is the non-sexual side of reproducing after your own kind. What gets transmitted to your children, because things get transmitted to our children from us. They didn't get it out of the air, y'all. They didn't just happen to be born that way. They got it through the parents in the home environment. And this is what you have to know. And so I read the first part of the behavioral environmental effects of parents and caregiving, non-sexual. We started on that today in this series. And this is series number 2 ending. And I'm not sure if I could get the father's side. Let me go ahead and I'm going to try to finish the father's side. A father, single parent, non-sexual, reproduces in his boy child and girl child himself based on the environment provided for his children with no mother caregiver involved. If the father rejects the daughter, say, and pours more into his son, the nurturing, than the daughter, he will reproduce let me see. If the father rejects the daughter and I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading my notes, y'all. And pours more into his son, the nurturing, than he will produce. The father will reproduce a lesbian behavior in the girl because he failed to nurture and care for her as his female child. So I think you can get what I was saying, that when the father he's rejecting his daughter, whether he rejects her outright or not, if he pours more nurturing into his son than his daughter, the daughter will feel rejected, and more likely the father will cause a reproduction. He will reproduce a lesbian behavior um, in his girl child, due to the lack of wanting to nurture her and care for her in the way that she needs, like a father should do. Rejection in female child from the father also reproduces a promiscuous daughter at times, one who looks for love in any man who will give her attention. She needs the attention she needs, but because no one can really do this for her, she sleeps around with many partners. Rejection also, this is non-sexual reproducing after their own kind, okay? Reproducing these identities that are happening in children's lives. It's the connection to the parents, y'all, and the environment, whether it's a biological parent, caregiver, or not. It's the environment as well, coming from them and the relationship with the child. Rejection also reproduces females who will date only older men. If the father has abused the child by not doing, the right thing with her, because she will still be trying to get love from older men because she didn't get it from her father. So the lack of that nurturing and stuff also can produce in the female a need to date older men. So and this is abuse too, y'all. Okay, this is all the same because it has to do with relationship. We say reproducing after their own kind because these are what kinds of relations that harm. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me make sure following the page here. Because these are the kinds of relationships that are produced through their children. See, God commands us to preach His truth, to make sure everybody gets to choose. We are sharing this information because God commands us to preach the word, preach the gospel, teach the Bible, us to preach His truth, to make sure everybody gets to choose. Okay, the relationship matters. Okay, is what we're talking about here. We may do some more research, or we did more research probably on these other reproductions that are non-sexual in causation for us to share with you, and to do a separate, it will be also added in our book. The book will have needs to focus. Our book will have needs to focus on, is dedicated to those who were reproduced to sexual relationships of some sort in their lives. And that's what we are showing in the Bible, okay? And we're going to stop right here because we're already at the half an hour mark. And we will be picking up on either stories from the Bible that helps you give you more background to show you what happens when, like our next series will be talking about the giants in the Bible. It's a good example of how you reproduce after your own kind. And it is a sexual connection in these relationships, that produces giants in the Bible. So we'll be coming back with that in series number 3. And as we go on, and you might be wondering where some of the interviews of the true life stories, they're coming. So just hang in there. We want to give you these backgrounds because we think it's important so that you can see that we just didn't pull this out of the air, and it's not our saying, it's the Lord and his word who help us in his word, the Bible, that helps us to understand where this all came from. And this is my personal journal of information that God had me research and what he gave to me and how he brought it together. The wisdom of God is on these pages and in our series, okay? So we thank you for listening. See us on the next series. Series number 3 will be on taking up the giants in the Bible and how they reproduced after their own kind and how that reproduction came about, okay? And you will get to see that when we don't get together, when humans don't come together properly, they reproduce another kind of identity, okay? Another kind of human being, okay? And you may look, sometimes it will cause a mutation in physical form, as well as in identities and things of that nature. It affects so much. And so we're giving you biblical answers and examples to why this is so important. Okay, series number 3, we'll be coming back with you on that. Abuse and series on relational abuse. This is the series on relational abuse in families, the truth/connections to LGBTQ and other identities. May you be blessed. May you receive the truth, and may you continue with the series so that you can hear from God for yourself. Okay? Please pray, y'all. Each time you listen, before you listen, keep your heart open to God so that you can receive the best thing that God will want to happen for you. In Jesus' name, see you next time.
With me on the mountain and in the valley low, your love will never leave me, never let me go. Nothing can separate me from a love so pure, so true. I can find myself in you. Find myself in you. Even from a distance, your eyes are on this child. There's no place I can run to, nowhere I can hide. With darkness all around me, I thought I lost my way. Then you reached out and rescued me. Forever I will say, nothing can say